Hi guys, Every Knife Guy here with another Ramble video for you today. Just on the coffee today, middle of the afternoon, not night as it usually is when I make these sort of vids. And today we're going to be talking about a couple of different folding knife issues that I've been thinking about for a while. The second one is one that bothers me. I'm not sure if it even bothers anyone else, but hopefully we'll get some discussion going in the comments and see what you guys think about it as well. And the first part was prompted by a video that another YouTuber made, someone that I follow and watch all his videos. And he made a video about it recently that I thought was quite interesting and you guys should go check out. So I figured no time like the present to add my thoughts to that in a kind of unofficial VR. So the video I'm talking about was made by I'm a Forester. I'm going to grab my iPad here and show you his channel. If you don't follow him already, you can see I'm a Forester's username up here. I'm a Forester. He makes some very cool videos, a lot of knife videos, gun videos too. And the video I'm talking about here is this one, Knife Myth, Tip Up versus Tip Down Carry. And if you're a knife guy or know anything about folding knives, you probably already know what he's referring to there. Let's show you some more of his videos here. New Knives 2015 is a very cool video, go watch that one. And he's got a really cool knife collection, a lot of higher end production knives. A lot of knives that I'm kind of aspiring to pick up in the next year or two. So very interesting videos. Go check them out, give them a sub, and say I sent you. So that's the video we're responding to. And tip up versus tip down. Well, if you know anything about knives, you know that probably is referring to this guy here and how you carry your knife. The pocket clip and pocket carry. With the Paramilitary 2, you can see this is a 4-position pocket clip or pocket carry, of course. There's 3 holes there for the clip, there, and there. This one actually comes from the factory tip down. So the pocket clip is mounted on this end. The tip of the knife obviously is down at the bottom of your pocket. I've changed this round, as you can see, to tip up. So it's like so into your pocket, and there the tip is tip up. So this is quite unusual. A production knife coming in a tip down variation. Most of them come tip up these days, and it is kind of a trend. It's the popular thing to do. A lot of people do it because they think it's cool. A lot of people do it because they think it's quicker to deploy your knife in a situation where you may need it urgently. And some people just prefer pulling their knife out of their pocket in this manner rather than pulling it out in, I can't even think where I'm going with this, pulling it out like that, flipping it forward and opening it. You're pulling it out, up, and opening it. So it's a minor thing, but if you're into knives, it's something that you've no doubt spent some time thinking about and working out your own preference on. I'll say straight off the bat that most of my knives are configured to be tip up. It's just the way that most of them come to me, and I just leave it that way. I'm so used to it that that's kind of what I go with, but I'm going to show you in a minute. I actually changed how I carry most of the time, so it's a bit of a consideration for me now more than it used to be. So this one, as I said, came tip down. This one also came tip down. I actually just managed to change it the other day, and the screws in the pocket clip were actually really soft. I found it really hard to manage to crack them loose. I put it under hot water for a while. That managed to break them loose, and I got them out and changed it to tip up, which I'm quite happy about. But I will show you why that's particularly a consideration with this knife. This is the Boker Excalibur, of course. I will show you why it's a bit of a safety issue with this knife. But anyway, so I'm a Forester went into a few different things. He didn't go into a few different things. He went into one thing in particular, which is speed of deployment and whether that is really an issue. So he went through and did a number of different tests with a couple of knives, a Hinderer and a ZT. The ZT, much like this one, I think his was 561. This is ZT 560. And his Hinderer, which I think is a XM24, if I remember rightly. He went into speed of deployment and does tip up or tip down give you an advantage. And basically his findings were that it's very similar, it's hard to tell, and speed of deployment really shouldn't be a deciding factor for you whether you do tip up or tip down. So I'd mentioned to him in the comments that I had a few other things that I thought about and that we all kind of consider in relation to whether we choose tip up or tip down. So I would go and talk about those. And one of those I think is safety. Now I'm going to get rid of a few of these for now. We're going to have a look at why that might be. A lot of you can already figure this out, of course, if you're into knives or whatever. But let's just grab a prop here, which would be my jeans. Now, first of all, we're going to look at the way that I think it's fair to say that most people will carry, which is probably front right or front left pocket, depending if you are right or left-handed. So this is traditionally how I would have carried, front right pocket. And so we'll pick the Spyderco paramilitary again. So a tip up carry, your knife goes in like so, slot it down there, nice and tight. You can see your right hand goes in, grabs it here, pulls it out, up, and deploy with a Spidey hole, okay? Simple enough. When your knife is in your front pocket like this, and Fort Worth Glock guy, commented on this in the comments on Iron Forcer's video. He carries like this, and carrying like this, you can see the knife can't open because in your pocket, the spine of the blade is pressed up against this seam in your pants. So it's basically locked in there, as long as you're not carrying it at the front of your pocket here. One of the concerns, of course, with tip-up carry is that your knife is going to open itself in your pocket. You put your hand in and you skewer yourself on this extremely sharp tip. Nobody wants to do that. You certainly don't want that going under your nail or something. That's going to be extremely painful. So his theory, and the theory of a lot of people, is carry it back here in your front pocket. It's locked into place. You're not going to have any accidents because your hand's going to be going in here to grab your wallet or whatever, or back here just to pluck your knife out. So seems fine, okay? The issue for me is that I have, we'll show another one in the front pocket. Do we have anything here that's tip up? Sorry, tip down. No, I don't think we do. But let's just imagine it's this one, for example. So imagine the pocket clip is back here where it was just a few days ago. We have this in your pocket like so. So this is your tip down in your front pocket. And again, your blade can open like that, but even if it opens like that, your hand is going in, and as your hand goes into your pocket, the only thing it's going to do is push the blade closed, if anything. You're certainly going to notice that your blade's open as you put your hand in, so it's not really a concern. You're not going to stab yourself, or very unlikely to slice yourself. Not really a big issue. Now the issue for me is that I've recently changed the way I carry all my gear, and for me it's working much better to carry my main blade in my rear right pocket. So I'll flip these over. And I'm sorry if this is a bit long-winded, guys. I could tell you all this in about 3 minutes, but that's what these Ramble videos are about. It's just me waxing lyrical, and you can stick around, or you can hop out at any time. That's up to you. So this is where I would normally carry my main folding blade now. So if you put the paramilitary in there now, okay. Now the issue I have is that now I should say my family are in the house today. They're upstairs and they're making a lot of noise, so I apologize for any background kid noises or wife noises. They're a noisy bunch. So the back of the handle, the spine of the handle, as you can see, is up against the seam. The blade is on the middle of my pocket, so if I reach back here and the blade has opened, I'm free to get skewered. If I sit on this somewhere and it's open, the unthinkable could happen. Very unlikely, but it is possible. So that's the issue I have there with it being tip up. So there is a safety issue there, the way that I carry it at the moment. This one, again, if we looked at being tipped down, imagine the pocket clip is here because I don't have a tip down knife to show you. Put it in there. Again, the spine of the blade is up against this seam in my pants, and there's no way that can open. So you'd say, for me, the way I carry, tip down is an obvious choice. Well, it is, but then I have some issues with that because a lot of the knives I own are tip up only. So this one is this one's two-way, although I'm not left-handed, so that's not a big issue. This one's two-way. This one is four-way. This one, Browse Bionic, is tip up right hand only. No, sorry, tip up right or left. There is a filler tab there. Tip up only, so I couldn't do anything about that one. Move the pants over here a little bit. ZT452 is tip up only, right or left. 560 is tip up or tip down, so that one I could change. Now these aren't all my knives, of course, but these are a selection to give you some examples. This one, my new Makusta, is tip up only, left or right. My Rat is tip up or tip down, left or right. It's always good to see four potential positions, but not all knives and manufacturers do it, and some knives, just by their design, can't do it. This Spyderco Starmate is tip up or tip down, left or right. But for the most part, most knives, if they have only one carry option or two carry options, it will be right or left tip up. Certainly the knives that I own and I buy. So if I am tied to tip up in some of my knives, I don't want a mixture if at all possible. Like, I want them all to be the same, so I'm used to the same muscle memory, the same movements getting out of my pocket. You can see we'll put this 452 in here. You can see there again, that nasty big slicing blade. If that flipper tab, which is down here in my pocket, was to get pushed or something, or in some way pressed to open that, and you can see it's not very easy because I'm pressed on the lock bar there. But if that was in some way to open up, there's a piercing point there for my hand as soon as I put my hand back to grab it. But at the same time, it's more of a danger to my leg, I would say, because when I reach for my knife, I don't know about you, I tend to grab it in a pinch grip here to pull it out. I grab it between the pocket clip and the back or show side scale, pull it out into my hand and deploy. Okay, so there is a safety issue, but at the same time, I want consistency in how I carry, so that I always know how my knife is coming into my hand and what I'm going to do with it. So that's one of the issues for me. Consistency and safety, I think, are the two things I wanted to add to Emma Forrester's kind of thoughts on the matter. The speed thing isn't a big deal for me. I don't carry a knife really for defensive purposes. That's probably like a 5% to 10% consideration when I buy or choose what I carry. It's more for utility for me, and I find the rear pocket carry is great for utility for me, and tip up just works. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. But that does lead us into the second issue, which I was going to talk about today, and that is detent. Now, it's more, the tip up, tip down thing is more of a consideration on some knives than others. This ZT560, the detent on this is killer strong. You can see there it really snaps once it gets past it, but it has a real suck on it. And definitely locked into place. Like, I can pinch that blade and give it a good pull before it breaks loose. Same with the flipper, you can feel a lot of pressure before the blade flies out. So good detent on there. There is only a good detent on there though, because I actually took this apart and bent the actual locking bar for the frame lock. The detent on this had got so weak that it was literally falling open with a good shake. And I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely cannot stand that in a knife. And it's a shame, because knives like this, which I'm going to look at next, have a terrible detent, and it completely puts me off carrying it. Now, going back to the tip up, tip down thing, if you have a knife with a weak detent in your back pocket, so it's in like that, a weak detent, this is way more likely just to fall open in your pocket and cause a safety issue. So it's a consideration from that point of view, but I just don't like it. Like, I like a knife that locks positively, but I like excuse me, I'm getting my tongue tied here. I like a knife that also houses securely in the handle and stays there until you absolutely need it to come out. So great detent on there. Similar on this, there is no way I'm shaking that out. Very strong detent, makes for a great flip on that ZT. I go into a more budget option, my Rat Model 1. Excellent detent, but when you want it to come out, there's just enough that it's not uncomfortable to break it free. It flies open, locks up really well, and such a fast firing knife. Again, due to good detent, really. My Browse Bionic, very lightweight blade, which is partly why it has such a secure detent. I think it really holds it in place nicely until you need it. It's not going to fall out in your pocket, and again, great flipping action because of that. So my Bob Terrazola Starmate, Spyderco Starmate, I again took this apart and bent the line lock tab slightly to increase the pressure in the detent, and tightened the pivot slightly, and between doing those two things, I modified what was quite a weak detent into something that is now quite strong, makes for a very positive deployment, and shouldn't, if you give it a really good whack, it'll come out, but that's obviously not going to be happening in your pocket. And if you get a really good whack, you can see you can actually deploy it right into the lock position. I'm not a fan of that. It used to do that so easily though. You could literally shake it and it would fly out and lock itself. So not a fan of that, but it is definitely, in its current situation, current setup, you know, it's much more of a fun knife for me to use and carry. So fix that one for me. Paramilitary 2 is obviously quite new. I just got this recently, but due due to the lock type and basically everything else about this knife, I don't really see many issues with this falling out anytime soon. It's still getting broken in really. You can see it's still a little stiff, but almost, yeah, free falling now. But don't see any issues with that coming out. And that brings us to our star piece of evidence here, which this is this Boker Excalibur again. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit because it's quite grotty. And this, for me, unfortunately, is a prime example of what I really don't like in knives. The detent on this is horrible. I just took it apart. Well, let's go back to the beginning. One of the issues with this is it has this very fancy pivot, which is all lovely in the carbon fiber there. It needs its own little tool. And this, as we just talked about, is right hand only, tip up or tip down, comes from the factory tip down, as I said. So when that pocket clip is there, as you can see, it covers the head of the pivot, which is not uncommon for a tip down knife. It will cover the pivot, so you can't do anything to the pivot while it is in place for tip down carry. This pivot is adjustable on both sides with the little specialized wrench that you get with it. What knife am I thinking of? This one here has a very neat design. If you look at this pocket clip, it actually has a cutout in it which both functions for the lanyard hole and also for the pivot. So you can adjust this Torx head pivot even if it's in tip down. So that's pretty nice. That's well thought through. I appreciate that. Not so much here. This completely blocked the pivot, so I couldn't really adjust tension and tighten it up to try and improve the detent. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to get this off, and I tried several times. I was getting really frustrated with these screws, and I said I eventually got it off so I could adjust this pivot and also take the knife apart and bend the liner tab slightly to increase the pressure on the detent, but it hasn't really made a whole lot of difference. It has made deploying a little harder, but it hasn't really made much difference to the actual detent on the knife. So I will show you where we are now. The locking tab before was not as far across as it is now. It's right in the middle, which is fine. It's not a big deal. I like it to be just kind of 100% of the tab at the start of the blade tang, but it's right in the middle, as you can see there. That's not a big deal. That's fine. It's not unacceptable lockup. It's plenty strong. But even after doing my little modifications that I do, the detent, yeah, let's see if I can just shake it out. Horrible. That's just a flick of my wrist and it's half open, which if you're in a situation where you need your knife very quickly, it's basically a flick knife. But that's not what I want. I don't want it falling out by itself. I certainly don't want it coming out tip up in my pocket. And this is actually making me consider putting this one back to tip down, just for safety considerations. But you know, I definitely like the pocket clip up here, because this brings me back to my last point about tip up, tip down, which is how the pocket clip affects the ergonomics of the knife. And in this one, it's a nice smooth knife, but it is basically just a stick style knife with a blade. You can see it's really nice in hand there. It's very smooth. And where it is currently, the pocket clip, it kind of fits into this little, you know, soft recess in your hand, which is away from the handle of the knife. You don't really notice the pocket clip in there at all. If you're using this to slice something with the pocket clip up here, you very definitely notice it digging into the side of your index finger. So that's another reason why I didn't want the pocket clip here. I wanted it down that end where it's not going to bother my hand. You're pinching strongly at this end. You're not really using your pinky and ring finger nearly as much, so they don't suffer as much from the pocket clip. So this knife is a prime example because it's a bit of a quandary. Deployment speed isn't really important. I think it looks better tip up because you don't have the ugly pocket clip up here covering your decorative pivot. I think it feels better in hand tip up, but everything about the detent tells me it should be tip down. So that is kind of case in point of making your decision, tip up, tip down, which do you want? Other knives where that be a consideration, big old pocket clip on here, I wouldn't really fancy that being at the front of my hand. You know, if I'm really taking a good firm hold on this and biting down to do some shaving on wood or whatever I'm doing with this knife, I wouldn't really want that pocket clip up in the front of my hand because it's pretty uncomfortable. You can see it kicks up quite a bit from the scale there, and you're definitely going to feel that in your index finger. Now again, this bothers some people more than others. Some people just say, oh, you're just a pussy. Just get over it. It's a knife. You shouldn't be overthinking ergonomics. Just hold on to it and cut whatever you need to cut. Well, that's fair enough, but I don't particularly like the feel of the pocket clip at the front. Here's another one where it would obscure the pivot, which is adjustable, and also it's a fairly chunky clip to feel. Now this knife is almost, if you look from left to right there, almost symmetrical. So here's an example of it being tipped down left-hand carry. You can see there it's really quite thick. It's really holding my finger away from the scale. So I'm holding on to the pocket clip with 3 fingers rather than holding on to the knife itself. And the pocket clip, although it's mounted with 3 screws, is definitely, it's definitely flexible. You can see the movement there, just with a little bit of pressure on it. So I'm holding on to that tightly with 3 fingers rather than the scale of the knife. If I have it down this end, I'm holding on to the nylon scales, pressing into the liners, and that part of my index finger is contacting directly with scale, and so is the tip of my index finger. So it's definitely a firmer hold, and it just feels better. So that is another big consideration, I think, for tip up, tip down. Long story short. And at 20 minutes, this is definitely the long story version. This knife, of course, is tip up only, and good for it. Nice smooth titanium side here. Feels really good on your finger. There's no nasty pocket clip digging in. It's all good. But just a few extra things to consider there, guys. I think the feedback on I'm a Forester's video was largely that the fact there was no sort of speed difference in tip up, tip down was pretty much as everyone would have thought. And not too many people were basing their decision completely on speed. Most of us aren't really that concerned with whether it takes us 2 seconds or 3.5 seconds or whatever to get the knife out. It's more just a personal preference, looks, comfort, safety of the blade opening your pocket, that sort of stuff. So just wanted to put my thoughts on it. I think I'll wrap it up there. You've probably heard enough, and I've gone over the same stuff about 4 times probably by now. So I think that'll do for this one, guys. Thanks for watching as always, and I think there'll be another Ramble video coming soon. I've also got a few knife videos and probably some sack videos coming as well. So thanks for checking in, guys. Hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.